Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. I'm Ajita Chakladar and I'll be your host today. We are here not just to talk about the challenges of the check fraud, but to navigate through cutting edge solutions. Alesa Velocity is starting this new fraud prevention and monitoring webinar series, and we found it very interesting to cover check fraud as the first topic since it's a rising concern. Whether you are a small business owner, a financial officer, or part of a large banking institution, the insights we share today can help you safeguard your business. Joining us today are leaders in the field of financial crime prevention. We have Mr. Sanjay Avasthi, Velocity's Global Chief Operating Officer. With over 32 years of experience, Sanjay specializes in operational excellence, recruiting, and deploying cutting-edge FinCrime solutions. His expertise includes combating financial crime and ensuring regulatory compliance in the global banking sector. We also have Mr. Vineet Mishra, who is the CIO and Chief of Product at Velocity. With 18 plus years of leading industry expertise in IT, banking, and finance, Vineet Mishra specializes in leading implementation of financial crime prevention software suites across the USA, Canada, and Australia's financial institutions. And last but not the least, we have Thomas Pirro, our Global Head of Sales at Velocity. He has 35 years of consultative sales expertise to aid financial institutions in meeting AML regulations and combating fraud. Thomas specializes in Velocity's FinCrime Solutions Suite and ensures comprehensive coverage with a focus on deployment ease and cost-effective functionality. We appreciate you joining us today. Before we dive in, I'd like to go over a few things. First, this webinar is being recorded, and the same will be sent to you via email within 24 hours. And we encourage interaction. Please feel free to send in your questions on chat during the Q&A session at the end. Now, let's get into it. In 2023, financial institutions reported unprecedented financial loss due to soaring check fraud. According to NASDAQ, the total losses in America in 2023 were near $21 billion, of which one institution reported a loss as high as $135 million. Check fraud losses in the Americas represented nearly 80% of total check fraud losses globally last year, underscoring the growing problem of check fraud in the US. So Sanjay, as an industry leader, have you ever thought that when the world is moving towards cashless technology and complete digitalization, the paper checks are coming back? And not just coming back, but the check fraud is on the rise. Isn't it very shocking? What do you think are the reasons behind it?
Hi, Ajita. Thank you for the kind introduction. I'll be happy to put my 2 cents and try to explain why I think check fraud is on a rise. So thank you, and here we go. Today we are discussing the rise in check fraud, which is kind of surprising. I couldn't imagine 5 years ago that check fraud will rise since the digital payment industry is on rise and people are using more and more other payment channels. But I think the reason for these is the first thing is the pandemic caused issues, supply chain disruptions across the globe, global instability due to other wars are happening in Europe and right now in the Middle East. As the global industry is rising in the different payment channels, the fraudsters are also getting advanced in how to fraud people, especially the elder abuse and pig butchering, where people have used fraudulent checks and scamming people with great advanced technology. For example, the fraudsters using advanced technology like GenAI to do voiceovers, forge signatures, alter the images, and amount itself could result into a rise of check fraud. Velocity is on the forefront on fighting check fraud by preventing and detecting check fraud. We will discuss this today in the session with our Velocity expert, Tom, please take it over to describe various use cases and scenarios, how fraudsters are doing it, and we'll also discuss what exactly Velocity is doing in our fraud module to prevent and detect check fraud. Thank you. Tom, over to you, buddy.
Thank you, Sanjay. Very insightful. I would say the recent uptick in check fraud is very disturbing, to put it mildly. Let's discuss a few recent check fraud scenarios that caused significant losses to our industry. So the first case, very recent case, it was actually published May 1st of this year, and it involved two men who pled guilty to stealing $2.7 million by targeting the mail of Southern Californians. They did plead guilty to the scheme involving third-party bank accounts and stolen checks. And what makes this particular case interesting is that the two men, they solicited accomplices to help in their fraud. And how they did that is they went through social media and found people. And then they would receive a cut, the accomplices, of any of the stolen cash that was deposited into the accounts, which, again, is fairly unique. But we're going to see a theme here that it happens more than we think. So what they were doing as well is these accomplices, they would provide the suspects with personal information, including bank accounts and PIN numbers and debit cards and online banking login info. Very sophisticated scenario here. And of course, armed with this information, that is how they were able to steal $2.7 million. So they pled guilty. Good news is they're behind bars. So second scenario, which is equally as interesting to me, it was January of this year. It was a federal grand jury who returned an indictment charging 5 people from Maryland with conspiracy to commit mail fraud and bank fraud in connection with a fraud scheme that involved more than 600 stolen checks and a face value of $5 million. That's serious money. What made this case particularly interesting is one of the defendants actually worked for the USPS and was able to use her knowledge to steal these 600 checks. They were both business checks as well as individual consumer checks. And then, once again, as we saw the trend in the other scenario, the defendants recruited account mules, who were individuals whose bank accounts are used to deposit illegally acquired checks and proceeds of the schemes. So again, they would provide some form of compensation for any successful scam that occurred. And they were targeting a number of different financial transactions, including ATMs, withdrawals, and account transfers, not just checks itself. But one thing we need to say and be aware of, these are very sophisticated fraudsters. These are rings. These are not people who woke up one morning and decided they're going to defraud a financial institution. We all need to be aware that these criminals, unfortunately, understand our system, know our system, and know how to work our system.
Yeah, very well said, Tom. Thank you very much for basically enlightening us with these two very good case studies. And I think what you're saying is really, really surprising. And check fraud is really on its rise, and everywhere we're finding the same information at the moment. And I'm sure people are trying to work against it. But what we have got in our solution, as in what Velocity can offer to help financial institution, that how to combat check fraud for their institution. So these are just some very quick information for everyone here. So what Velocity does is Velocity offers an AI-driven check fraud solution. What we mean by when we say AI-driven, so what we have done basically, we have done some integrations and with different core banking systems, and trying to bring some check images in a good format so that we can actually review them. What our solution is offering, basically, we're pre-investigating check images for all the investigators. We're able to basically dissect every single piece of check information, cut it, slice it, like amount, name, pay, everything, and actually use AI to find out if there has been any manipulation, digital manipulation in that. And with the help of that, we're also able to draw a very nice investigative summary, like telling the investigator that what is the case, possible case with this check, and then from there help you make a quick decision. Now I think this all looks like a lot of talk so far to you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly pull up the system, show you how it looks like in Velocity, and then we make that impression from there. All right, I just need a moment while I'm pulling my system up and getting this up and running for you. So on the screen, you will be able to see the Velocity landing page. So we'll not get into any other detailed information here. We'll just directly dive into the check fraud solution by Velocity FinCrime Solution Suite. I'm just going to log on as an analyst because I just want to show people first the part like how an analyst is going to investigate a check fraud alert in Velocity. So we quickly log on as an analyst. Once we land up to dashboard, we basically you see, I'm going to skip all these parts to get reminder in our dashboard and all that. Quickly going to fraud alerts and going to review alerts. We do real-time and batch alerts both. Let's probably look at a check fraud alert. So that's how a check fraud alert looks like in Velocity, right? If you look at it, the top section is all about the alert information, like where the check is from. So it's from retail banking, and this alert was generated on 8th of May, and it automatically picks a 30 days window for your that time, showing this transaction. This is the number of days the account creation has been, and this is our, so because there is no rule right now, this is a fraud risk mitigation real-time machine learning AI engine, and this is a check fraud alert, and the risk level is high for this alert. So this is what I was talking about. There is a risk analysis summary and how many things it has done, and a lot of other details are here present and showing you some dominant features and check all that. But what's the best part is, let me pick that up for you. So it is our check image analysis. That's what the best part is, and the key feature right now we would like you to see is, if you look at this, this is the image, this is the check image we have brought in, and now here you see the entire analysis has been performed. If you see the pay name, it says digital manipulation found in the pay name. It says digital manipulation found in the numeric amount, and same way on the text amount. Anywhere it says the name means nothing has been detected. And the most important part is signature fraud detected. Signature is different when compared to past signatures of same customer. So we are able to get other check images or past images from the customer and compare them. Now, if you see, there's a nice investigative summary pre-written for all the investigators there, which says analysis below data point shows it's likely an instance of large dollar check fraud. $50,000 is a significant amount of money, especially for an individual retail customer like Alan Riley, considering his historical check transaction amount. Check image detection is also showing manipulation of check amount. Pay name is this, so it is highly possible that pay name shown as this may be a fake or fictitious name of the, and this is really written by an AI. So, and then talk about signature validity again. And then finally, we're saying, taken together, these data points suggest that the transaction is a case of large dollar fraud involving in customer as a victim. And then now you can make a decision here, false positive, or it's a true positive, put a comment in, put an analysis narrative, and click update here. Oh yeah, I forgot one thing to tell you is, here's where the historical checks we pull in. So this is how I was telling you, like we're able to compare the historical check signature amount. So that's how so you're able to see all the historical checks also in here. I hope that gives you an idea as how our check fraud solution looks and works. I think we're going to open the session for the questions now. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Vineet. So before the Q&A session, let's get some polls done. We'll be having 3 poll questions to which you all can submit your answers. So let's get poll 1 on the screen. Poll 1 should be on your screen now, which asks, what mechanisms does your financial institution currently use to detect and counteract check fraud? And the options available to you are manually monitoring and detecting suspicious check fraud patterns and thus preventing check fraud, using machine learning algorithms to predict a check kiting scheme, avoiding substantial loss, and leveraging AI and ML for real-time monitoring to detect check fraud, saving a significant amount. You have around 10 seconds to show us what you think. Please register your answer and hit the submit button. We're already seeing some responses coming in now. I'll encourage everybody on this webinar to post their responses. We are still seeing some responses coming up. Great. Let's move on to the next poll. Poll 2 asks, which strategy has been particularly effective in your organization to combat check fraud? And the options available to you are rigorous staff training and customer education, implementation of pattern detection algorithms, regular data analysis to identify and address new fraud patterns, and using a check fraud detection software. I'm really excited to see what majority thinks over here. Again, you have 10 seconds to register your answer and hit the submit button. We're seeing some great responses over here right now. Let's wait a few minutes for everybody to register their answer. Make sure your vote is in. All right, we'll move on to poll 3 now. Poll 3 asks, how do your customers perceive your efforts to prevent check fraud? And the options are, they feel secured, they feel overly scrutinized, and they are largely unaware. You have few more seconds to register answer to this poll question. I'll urge everybody to register their responses. All right. We have received good responses on the polls till now. I'll take a few seconds to reveal the poll stats as well. So our first question asked, what mechanisms does your financial institution currently use to detect and counteract check fraud? And with a landslide of votes, people have voted manually monitoring and detecting suspicious check fraud patterns and thus preventing check fraud option with 75% of the votes. We have 14% attributed to using machine learning algorithms to predict a check kiting scheme, avoiding substantial loss. For poll 2, we asked which strategy has been particularly effective in your organization to combat check fraud. And with 52% of votes, rigorous staff training and customer education is the winner. And then we have 32% of votes attributed to using a check fraud detection software. And our last question was, how do your customers perceive your efforts to prevent check fraud? And 66% of people voted for their largely unaware option. I hope the poll stats are clear. Now, let's quickly move on to our Q&A session. It's time to interact with our experts. So yes, please start shooting your queries in the chat section and we'll try to take up as many questions as we can. And if there are any questions which we are not able to take up in this webinar due to time crunch, rest assured, we'll be sending your answer to the email.
So I think we got a couple questions, Ajita. The first one, I'll take the first one first, is will the system function with checks written in language other than English? Yeah, we did try one more additional language, and it was working fine, but we didn't pilot it 100% as English was our main priority. But if it is required, we could add a different language. We tried it with Spanish, so we will look forward to do another language. Can you go through the alert parameters for your example? That was the next question. So from this question, what I understand is alert parameters for your example is this is basically a AI-driven model. What basically is trying to find out, working on particular data features, where is a perfect anomaly is being detected. For example, you saw, apart from just the check image information, it is also considering some other things like out of sequence check or the other checks which has to be performed. Yeah, if you would like to set up a dedicated meeting to discuss this more in detail, we'd be very happy to discuss more parameters in detail. Okay, so one question, I'm going to pick it up as many as. So can you discuss the check fraud alerts in your rules inventory? Yeah, definitely. We could talk about the other check fraud alerts as well, different type of alerts. We have it's not a so we do have a rule system as well, which basically works on a number of rules which we have. So we can let you see the rules inventory. But what you saw today, that was 100% AI model, not a rule-driven alert. Next question I'm going to take it is, does Velocity offer more than just check fraud detection, wire fraud, ACH fraud? Yeah, definitely. This is what you saw, the webinar series is starting up. This is episode 1, and please be tuned in for the other episode. But yeah, we do offer wire fraud, ACH fraud, account takeover, employee insider. We cover the whole fraud spectrum. The next question is, there are a lot of check solutions, fraud solutions out there, or differentiates velocity from the rest? Okay, very good question. Yeah, definitely. So the first thing as a differentiator starts with, we really work very hard on the data. So we try to make sure that the data is inserted into the system in a very good quality, so that any system or any technology is only able to perform a good investigation until you do not have the data in the right format. So if the data quality is good and we got all the data points captured, we can perform the good analysis. That was the first thing as a differentiator. The second part is, as you saw, that probably we are using and providing you a pre-investigated summary, which is cutting down probably 60% of investigators' time to write anything up, so you can see the value in investigating the check fraud. Next one is, Velocity capable of getting the check image data? Yeah, we are integrated with a few core banking systems at the moment, FIAs and Fiserv for sure, and a few more which are basically not known to a lot of people, but probably from fintech space, we're integrated with them as well. Does this monitor checks and deposit, checks written by customers or both? Yes, definitely. So that's our fraud module is basically divided between, like, deposits and checks, and it is also divided, like we talked about, wire, ACH, and another part. So if you're you're interested in more details, we can definitely have our team set up a meeting with you and talk all different parts of the check fraud as well. I've got another one. Does Rosti also offer solution outside of fraud, for example? Oh yeah, definitely. We have a full AML suite, which includes sanctions and AML transaction monitoring, your KYC risk rating, cannabis screening, FinCEN 314A for US. So it is a full suite for AML and fraud. I think I covered. Any more question? That was really good to see the question came up. I mean, if you are not able to think anything of right now, even in future, you would be getting an email from our team with the recorded session of this webinar, and you would have contacts of our sales team members, and you can definitely reach out to them and for more questions, or ask us anything into our social channels as well, LinkedIn or X.
Thank you, Vineet, for answering the questions. As we conclude today's session on check fraud prevention, I'd like to say thank you to everyone for participating and engaging with us throughout this webinar. A special thank you to our expert speakers for sharing invaluable insights and actionable strategies to help us combat this issue. Remember, the fight against financial crime is ongoing, and staying informed is our best solution. If you are eager to explore more about Velocity, you can book a free demo with us to get a complete walkthrough. Get your hands on Velocity and get a shield to combat check fraud. Also, if you want to stay updated regarding the current trends in the FinCrime industry, please follow us on social media handles LinkedIn and X. I'm signing out. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.